late Friday, as we were watching the developments from Washington, the announcement that Sarah Huckabee Sanders was being named the new press secretary, and Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, was going to be the new White House communications director.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Scaramouche, Scaramouche.
It's going to be one of those Mondays, folks. It's going to be one of those Mondays.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Mooch. So anyway, while all of that was going down, the mainstream media launched an incredibly ugly attack on Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I want to talk to you for a few moments about that, because this really got under my skin. I actually have a column about it over at toddstarnes.com, and I weigh in on the issue a little bit deeper there. But the guy leading the charge is named Ira Madison. And Ira Madison is a reporter with the Daily Beast. He's their culture reporter. And he posted one of the ugliest tweets I've ever seen. He actually compared Sarah Huckabee Sanders to a transvestite, actually calling her a butch queen. This is what a member of the mainstream media called the White House press secretary. So, if it would have stopped there, it would have been bad, but it just kept getting worse. Now, just as a caveat here, Ira Madison III is the same guy who cracked that racially charged joke about Attorney General Sessions' granddaughter. Remember that back during the confirmation hearings? His granddaughter, Asian American, wrote some terrible things. He actually apologized and deleted that tweet. He also said some really terrible things about Ben Carson, the Housing and Urban Development Secretary. He actually wrote, and again, I'm not sure why this guy is still gainfully employed as a journalist. He wondered if President Trump was going to hire him to be in the House or the field. That's what the guy wrote about Ben Carson. So the attacks went on and on and on, and I'm not going to get into all of them because they're pretty disgusting, but you can read them at toddstarnes.com. One person, one of the writers for Family Guy, said that Sarah Huckabee Sanders looks like every woman eating lobster on a cruise ship. That's what he wrote. Could you imagine the hellfire and brimstone that would have rained down had a journalist made a remark like that about Michelle Obama? Could you imagine that? But there was no outrage. Where was the mainstream media defending Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Where was that? It's as if the nasty women crowd, they pulled their hats over their eyes and ears, hoping to tune out the anti-woman hate spewing from the left. The same thing happened on Saturday Night Live. Remember when they skewered her with that terrible body shaming sketch? So I want to illustrate for you, though, the double standard. Because about the same time that she was being referred to by the liberal media as a butch queen, Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, told CNN's Jake Tapper that he recommended to Ms. Huckabee to maintain the same hair and makeup people at the White House. Now, when I heard that comment, I knew exactly what he was talking about. You know, that they had done a good job making up his hair and his face. But the critics pounced, and the mainstream media went bonkers. They said, oh, my gosh, the Mooch is making fun of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We've got to do something about this. And you ought to see the headlines. Washington Post, The Hill, New York Post, Newsweek. Everybody covered that. But they ignored the Daily Beast smear. So this is the double standard that conservative women have come to expect from the mainstream media. And it's ugly. It is absolutely ugly. So Kellyanne Conway said, you know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders needs just to ignore the jackals and the hyenas. I agree with her. But the irony here is that the feminist movement, they only care about liberal females. Everybody else, fair game. So I did some thinking about this Ira Madison III. I tried to reach out to the guy. I haven't heard back. I'd like for him to come on the radio show and explain why it's okay for a grown man to talk like that about a woman. I remember a story, producer Christine, a history lesson here. Back in the day, President Truman found himself at odds with a reporter who wrote a nasty review of his daughter Margaret's singing voice. She had a lovely singing voice, a Democrat, mind you. And President Truman wrote a letter to the guy. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I believe this should suffice for our purposes for this segment of the show. Here's what President Truman wrote to this guy who went after his daughter. Someday, I hope to meet you. When that happens, you will need a new nose, a lot of beefsteak for black eyes, and perhaps a supporter below.
You can't do that.
Well, that's President Truman there. So that's the president. So, look, here's the deal. Some people might call this Ira Madison guy a thug or a bully or a small-handed gutter snipe who gets his jollies by smacking around women with cheap misogynistic words. They would not be incorrect. But if it's all the same, I say we just call the guy a sexist pig.